Hey everybody, Zongets 134 here.
Average Joe Squad here.
And welcome to another episode of Remember the Hyphen, the show where we look at comic books, movies, and everything in between. I'm like Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns. And so, you know what? Today we're talking about a Superman movie that is based on actually probably my favorite Superman story. Originally this was based on a book known as, which was a one-shot story for Superman, I think Action Comics 775. Or no, it was Superman 775. A story written by Joe Kelly, known as Superman. What is so funny about truth, justice, and the American way? Or as probably most of you recognize it as, Superman versus the Elite. So, I actually was immensely excited when this movie first came out. Because this came out, I think 5 years ago? I forget exactly when. Well,
Copyright.
Well, it came out around when the New 52 was around, because that, on the back you can see the New 52 DC logo, which I hate that logo where it's, hey, let's make it the D and the C look like comic book pages, so the D is peeled back. No, I hated that logo. It looks so bad.
There's no copyright.
I want to say this came out 2015, but
Yeah, keep the whole look. It's in here.
But, basically, I actually, when I was very little, I had seen What's So Funny About True Justice in the American Way at the, I believe it was the magazine rack at the Giant Eagle. And
that dates us. That's where I used to get my comics from.
And I had seen this picture of this Superman who was, his eyes were red, his costume looked all cracked and ripped, and you see like the smoke and stuff. And to be fair, I think this came out
in 2012.
No, okay, so 8 years ago. But like, the comic had came out, and it had been like, I think a couple of years after 9/11 had happened too. So this was also kind of
A response piece.
A response piece. And a response piece to a lot of things, particularly the comic books series from Wildstorm known as The Authority, where the superheroes in that story were kind of the next stage of 90s superheroes, where they were proactive, they killed governments that they believed didn't do right, but at the same time they were drug addicts and racists and...
Also, it's the boys, basically.
The Boys, except I actually argue the Boys are more respectable than the Authority, particularly because the guy who wrote the Boys is actually a big Superman guy. I don't think the story of the Boys, but he wrote another thing for DC about these guys called something like the Boys, and they actually run into Superman, and the guy actually, because like these guys like they fight like gangbangers and shit, and they like the dude legitimately like sits down with Superman, and they actually have like a discussion with each other, because that is how much the guy who writes Superman loves him, to the point where even like it's almost like the Punisher with Cap.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a scumbag, but I still respect you, Superman. And like they actually have a talk about like the fact that Superman feels weak despite the fact that he's the strongest man on Earth, because like he's like, I can't be everywhere, and it hurts me that I can't be everywhere and save everyone. And I'm like, wow, this guy gets Superman better than actual writers for Superman sometimes get Superman. But so...
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, but getting back to talking about What's Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, I picked it up and I read this book, and I'm like... Because, like, I'm not, like, the biggest Superman guy, but, like, I respect him.
Yeah, you and I are basically in the same boat.
Yeah,
we're more so Batman guys.
I mean, granted, when I was a little kid, I really loved Superman until Batman the Animated Series happened, and then I was like,
Batman.
But like I read this story, and it's about, honestly, Superman's greatest enemy, which isn't Darkseid or the Parasite or Lex Luthor. It's relevancy. And I remember, like, I think this was probably the first comic book I ever read where I understood the subtext to the, where it was about Superman wondering if the world has passed him by. And I think that was really the first time as like a 13-year-old that I really truly understood the the medium that is comic books. So when this movie came out, I was honestly excited because, in my opinion, especially even nowadays, we need Superman versus the Elite because it really does to ask you the question, what is so funny about truth and justice? But anyway, what were your thoughts going into this movie? Since I kind of forced you to watch it.
Not really forced. I was going to get to it at some point. Because my exposure to this comic was through Linkara's review of it.
Yeah. Which, again, I also made him watch, because I was like, you gotta watch this, man, it's so good.
Which, to be fair, the amount of shit I've made you watch, so... But... And when I watched it, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Linkara's review of it. And then watching the movie, I really enjoyed the movie, honestly, more than the comic. Which I think... I'm sure they elaborated on or expanded upon some stuff. Because, as you mentioned, it was written by the guy that actually wrote the comic. So, to me, it didn't feel forced at all.
No,
most of the stuff they expanded on felt, very, very in character, very in universe, for the right reasons. But, like I said, going into the movie, I was already pretty sure I was going to enjoy it. But then actually watching it, I enjoyed it more than even I thought I was going to. Because I thought it was a really solid picture.
Yeah, no. So, just to give you an idea of... what this story, the movie is about, and the book as well. Basically, Superman is, this actually starts differently than the book, but basically, after having a run-in with the Superman villain Atomic Skull, which, basically, a war is breaking out in some... I don't think it's actually a real country. It's like
It's a couple of made-up third world countries.
One of which I think was kind of Middle Eastern, but the other one was clearly a European country.
What it more than likely was, it was probably a reference to the Bosnian Syrian conflict from the early 90s.
Yeah, definitely. And basically, one of the countries unleashes these WMDs, or as I like to call them, weapons of monstrous destruction. Basically, these weird...
These basically T-virus looking things.
Yeah, like these genetic alien monsters onto these soldiers and starts basically killing everybody. So Superman gets there, and as he's fighting them, this new super team shows up, known as the Elite, which consists of their leader Manchester Black, who is a psychic, Menagerie, who is a woman that has these things called synth beasts, basically the symbiote, only there's like a bunch of them, that turned her into this weird demon-looking creature that she can also make like weapons out of the synth beasts. Coldcast, who has the ability to generate electricity, and the Hat, who is a Chinese magician who has a magic hat.
There's no real way to put that.
Yeah, there's legitimately no way to put that. Show up, and they help Superman fight off the aliens, or the creatures, and then basically decide to tell Superman, oh, by the way, we now rule the planet. We're going to be the new breed of superhero, more or less. And their methods are very anti-Superman. They kill, they torture, they don't care about governments or law or world borders. If you do horrible things, the Elite will kill you, basically. And Superman, being who he is like, that's wrong. We are not above the law. And the Elite are like, why not? Like, this is what the world wants. And basically we get that story where we see public opinion shift towards the Elite because to the populace of the world, they're getting results. They stop the bad guys and they do it permanently, which is something that, Superman can't do. For every villain that Superman puts away, they just get back out again and they repeat the cycle. And it asks the question, is traditional superheroics worth a damn anymore? Every time they put the villains away, they get stronger and crazier and worse. And then the heroes, they fight them, but the casualties build up. So, you know, again, is Superman methods correct? That is basically the premise of the book and the film. You know, and eventually the elite egg on Superman to the point where Superman strikes them, you know, in an act of anger and shows the world that, you know, maybe he's not as good as he acts. And so the elite decide there's only one way for us to, you know, prove which side's methods work. We're going to fight to the death. And Superman, you know, finds this out, and so he travels the world trying to figure out an answer. And you get various people, like, responding to, like, news pundits. You see, like, kids playing a game of dress up where, like, some of the kids dress up as the elite, one kid's Superman, and, you know, like, the elite can win because in their game, Superman's not allowed to kill. So the kid who's playing Superman is like, Superman's so beat. Like, well, I want to play as the elite because it's way more fun to kill the bad guys than to just put them away. Which I think is actually the reason why, like, like because that scene is actually one of my favorite scenes, just because Superman even sees that, like, children are, like, because, like, as he says to Lois, like, I heard these kids playing a game where some of them were playing as the elite and some were playing as me. They talked about how fun it was to kill bad guys. Fun to kill. You know, and then we get the scene that everyone remembers when they watch this. The scene where Superman fights the elite. And for a moment, it seems like Superman has decided, alright, if this is what you want, then the gloves come off.
If you want blood, you got it.
Yeah. But, like, and to be fair, that's the basic like, much like with Man of Tomorrow, I don't want to go into too much about the story, but, like, that is the basic premise. It's basically much like Kingdom Come, which is also one of my favorite stories, it's about the new age of superheroes versus the old guard, and if whether or not one side is better than the other. Only I think it's with Kingdom Come, it's more neither side is right, and they need to kind of merge the ideas that work with each in order to make a better future. Here, it's a very solid stance that they prefer one over the other, and in my opinion, I think it's very much Superman in that regard. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
So, real quick, I kind of want to let you go into your thoughts a bit more about, like, this movie without, like, more, like, and maybe what you got out of it.
Yeah, basically, for me, what this film did was it really drove home the basic, you know, concepts and ideas that the comic put out.
Yeah.
Which I got familiar with through the Lankara review, and I feel like he did a really good bang-up job of, you know, not only talking about them, but, you know, giving them a little bit more context and discussing how this fit into how actual comics, you know, how stuff in the real world was going on. And as I mentioned earlier, I thought the movie expanded upon a lot of stuff really, really well.
Yeah.
Like, it gave a little bit more background to characters. It gave them a little bit more stuff to do. You know, we see a little bit more of them.
Yeah.
We see how people react to them. And to me, that really made the characters feel a lot more well-rounded.
Yeah.
Because in the comic, if I remember correctly, don't they just show up and immediately they're already at odds?
Yeah.
Here, like, at the beginning, they kind of almost seem like they don't want to
fight.
They don't want to fight him, you know?
Yeah. Like, they actually respect Superman.
Yeah, but it kind of gets to a point eventually where that is kind of what happens. And I thought that was really well done, because what it does is, in addition to just making things more well-rounded, to me it felt like a more organic pace to everything.
Yeah. And especially, I love the beginning fight with Atomic Skull, because that isn't in the book. I love that fight, especially at the end, where after Superman has subdued the Atomic Skull, you get that point where he actually, for a moment, considers killing the Atomic Skull because of the horrible things that he's done. Which I actually really like, because it actually shows that even Superman has thought about it. Like Superman, you know, for all of the things he says here, at the end of the day, he did think about killing the Skull. Because, like, even he was like, you're a monster, and you kill people every time you get out. But I'm not that man. Like, as much as I want to be. It reminds me of the JLA episode, or the Justice League episode where the Flash almost dies after he does that mock punch to rip Brainiac out of Lex.
Yeah.
And Superman for a moment almost thought about killing Lex because, like, and Superman's like, I'm not that man. God in heaven, I wish I was, but I'm not. That, like, you know, like, Superman isn't not susceptible to, like, the mortal desire to make people pay for the horrible things they've done, but because he is Superman, he's like, I'm not that. I really like the part where him and the guy in the UN debate his methods. Especially that after like the two factions, like, their delegates start arguing with each other in the UN, like Superman, like that especially because, like, Superman, like, he's like, you know, that I want to make a good world because, like, there's no such thing as a perfect world. That, like, even when humanity lets him down, he still knows that there is good to them, like, because I think one of the things the book doesn't do nearly as well as this movie is that Superman, you know, spouts all these things, which, you know, to quote Manchester Black, great to believe in people when you're bulletproof, you know, because but, like, Superman here, I think, like, because, like, there's one point where he's like, you know, like, I know it's not a perfect world, I know there are bad people, but there are good people too. Like, it's not about punishing the bad people. It's about lifting them up and trying to show the good people that you can stand on your own 2 feet and you can make a difference just because, even if you think you can't because you're not mean. Like, I think this movie, because, like, I think the book does a good job, but, like, I don't think the book nearly does as much of a job of showing that for all the things that Superman believes in, he understands that humans fail him sometimes. And it's not just he wonders why they failed, he also thinks maybe I failed you. But, like, Superman also you know, occasionally is like, you know, maybe it's me. Maybe I didn't do something right.
Yeah. Kind of like the mentor type role.
Yeah. Because, like, I actually, like you said, I like the fact that Superman actually tries to mentor the elite. You know, like, after that scene where, like, they rescue all those people in the channel, and Manchester Black almost kills those 2 guys until Superman's like, you know, no, we're going to turn them in. You know, and him and Manchester had, like, this argument for a moment, and then Manchester's like, we'll talk about it at the pub over a pint. Which I'm like, I imagine just the elite and Superman at a fucking bar. And then, of course, Menagerie tries making out with him, which, I will admit, the shit with Menagerie is hilarious.
No, it definitely is.
Like,
it made me chuckle a lot.
Like, that scene where they're in the Fortress of Solitude, and, like, and Manchester Black's like, you're just mad that I've got the stones to do what you don't. And Menagerie's like, he might have the stones to do me. Pam, I'm making an ultimatum. Could you keep it in your pants? No, the shit with Menagerie's hilarious. Shit
that Lois basically wants to beat
Oh,
Clark.
yeah.
Lois gets pissed about
Pam, one team up and you call her by her first name? So what is it? Do I have to staple slugs to my face? Meanwhile, Clark is just like...
That whole exchange killed me. I was laughing so hard at that.
Also, I loved... Because... I think the only Justice League actor they have is George Newbern, who was the second Superman, because there's a different guy for the Superman show, but for Justice League it was George Newbern. I love George in this because I think he, much like whenever they get Kevin Conroy back to do Batman,
he's just perfect.
No, he is.
He knows what to do. He knows how to enunciate everything.
Especially that scene where he's fighting the Elite. Holy. For those of you who don't know, he was actually the voice of Sephiroth in the Final Fantasy Advent Children. He was channeling his Sephiroth at the end there. My God. He makes Superman scary at the end when he...
See, I think you heard me and I was like, oh shit, I'm actually afraid.
Well, especially that scene where he makes a tornado on the moon.
Look, I told you, nothing good happens When Superman's on the moon, nothing good happens. Quest for Peace should have been fucking enough for you people to realize this.
Fun fact, if you permit me, in the book, it's not on the moon. In the book, it's Io. They fight on one of the moons of Jupiter. Which, holy shit. Like, complete with, they find an alien encased in a black tomb, as if implying that it was one of the rocks from 2001, A Fucking Space Odyssey.
Jesus.
Which, to be fair, the other rock is orbiting Jupiter, so that actually...
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I also like the fact that, like, much like Man of Tomorrow, this movie gets Pa Kent right. Because, like, I love that scene where, you know, Superman doesn't know what to do. So he goes to the Kent farm. And he sits down and he has a beer with Pa. And I also love the part where Pa Kent's like, John down by the tavern, you know, was rooting for the elite and said they could kick your ass. Punched him in the nose. Like, I love the idea that, like, Pa Kent gets into fights with people when they talk about his boy.
We talking shit.
What'd you say about my boy? I don't care. I'm 70 years old. I'll still kick your ass. But I like that scene because Superman doesn't know what to do, so he goes home and asks for Pa's advice. And again, I love it because, like, I love the dialogue between the two of them, you know, because Pa is like, you know, like, they're just excited over the new guys, you know. They give them enough time, and, you know, they'll see that you're the one that everyone should be cheering for. And I love it because, like, again, like, Superman thinks, you know, maybe I did fail you, because he's like, it's not just about that, Pa. They're scared, and I don't make them feel safe anymore. And I like that, because then Pa's like, you know, yeah, humans are like that when they're scared. You know, they see all the horrible things that happen on TV, you know, and it makes them angry and scared, and, you know, they want a quick solution. Which, holy shit, I think,
just nail on the head.
Nail on the head how humanity thinks. And to get into, like, another reviewer who reviewed this movie, which SF Debris did this amazing review of this movie. Like, you know, I think one of the reasons, and especially because I think this does what, like, The Dark Knight Returns does, where it shows, like, the news pundits and, like, you know, all these people talking about, like, you know, oh, the elite are really the heroes because they kill the guys and they get results. It's always about results, and, you know, they fight for us, despite the fact the elite don't. They fight for their own egos. You know, like in the comic, as you know, the elite are beating the shit out of Superman. You know, Manchester basically makes this ultimatum that, like, the elite rule the world. One of his rules is, you hit one of my guys, you're dead. Like, for all of his talks about how great, you know, the elite are, at the end of the day, they're just a bunch of bullies that they don't really want to protect people. They want to, you know, assume their authority over others. You know, but I like that scene with Pa, just like, because it gives Superman in my opinion, the answer for this film. It's you have to show your way works, but sometimes you have to do so in ways that isn't just talking. You know, that action is better than words sometimes. Basically. So, you know, I arguably you probably are the same as me, but do you think that there are the elite are right, or do you think that?
I definitely don't, if only because I'm kind of more so on the side of Superman with this, but there's always another way.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like as somebody who's a history guy, you know, I have an MA in history, for those of you who don't know. History is always full of hindsight being 20/20. If this had happened, this probably wouldn't have happened. You know?
Yeah.
So to me, it's like his speech about, you know, there's always another way. You know, killing and violence aren't the answer. There's always another way. I really agree with that because history kind of shows there always is.
Yeah.
You know, and there's numerous instances where, while there's always instances where things should have gone a different way, there are instances where things go a certain way that prevents things from going bad.
Yeah.
You know, like Cuban Missile Crisis being an example. There was another way other than us blowing each other up.
Right. Especially because, like, I can see some of the elite's words having some meaning, like the one quote you talked about, like, you know, you're not heroes. Why? You can't be heroes and kill people. Why? Your government does it every day.
Which I'm like, he said that. I'm like, you know, I got nothing. I really got nothing.
Like, I'm like, you know, Manchester, you're not.
He's got a point.
Chester, you're not.
You're not wrong,
but
you're not right.
You're not right either. You know, like.
But you got a point.
Especially because, like, you know, he kills the delegates of those two countries, and they kill everybody of the and I'm like, but you've just made the problem, like, infinitely worse.
Yeah.
Now there's a power vacuum, and arguably someone worse is going to come in and, you know, just start the war all over again, but it's going to be even bloodier. You know, that's one of the, you know, not getting into politics, that's one of the bigger problems with the Middle East. Is, you know, we take out these dictators and these
motherfuckers,
and then there's someone even worse, you know. And that was the way in the book too, because, like,
yeah,
you know, because, like, they kill this giant cyborg gorilla with a laser gun, and I want to point that out again. This movie takes out the giant cyborg gorilla with a laser, which I'm like.
Apes strong together,
like,
but just to kind of get a point, because I latched onto this thought with my ADHD brain. I don't want to lose it.
That's fine.
It kind of reminds me of something you brought up when we did our Superman 78 review, which was that and with this movie especially, what we were just talking about really brings it up to me again, is that the world more than ever now needs Superman. You know, there's always another way, you know, especially with now, you know, where everybody anymore is so given in, you know, and I suspect a lot of it is because of the pandemic making everybody willing to jump at everybody.
Yeah.
You know, as we've seen work in retail, we've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
Been victims of it a lot. We really need somebody to rally around like that.
Yeah.
You know, like that. There's always another way. We don't have to.
Well,
we don't have to be violent. We don't have to be. We don't have to be
Yeah.
mean. We don't have to be violent towards each other. You know, there's always another way.
That, and, you know, the part at the very end when, you know, Manchester's like, you know, if you think I'll let you, I won't get out and I won't start this again, you're living in a dream world. And Superman's like, good. Because dreams save us. They lift us up and they make us better people. And as long as I'm alive, I won't stop until my dream of a world where people help and care about each other is a reality. Because, like, I think a lot of people don't understand that, like, to quote the Fleischer cartoons where Superman fights a never-ending battle for true justice in the American way, it's not because the battle really is, there's no point and it's going to always keep going. It's because even if you get that, you know, truth and justice, you can't stop fighting because someone will always try to take it away or twist and pervert it. Like, you can't just rest now that you've stopped the threat. You have to work to make sure that threat doesn't happen again, or a new threat arises. You have to find new ways. You know, it's like people that don't get Batman's written right. Like, yes, his war is never ending, but that's just because it's worth fighting for, to stopping injustices and fighting so that no 8-year-old watches his parents get gunned down by a mugger and becomes a Batman or a Joker. Like, the whole idea is that the ideals that Superman fight for aren't something you just get and you stop. It's, you have to fight not just to get them, but to protect them. That ideals and dreams and hope, they're not just things you hold on to and can keep. You have to protect them, cultivate them, make them better than you are. And I am so sorry that every time we talk about Superman, it suddenly turns into
It turns into us preaching.
us preaching. But
Jesus allegory.
Oddly enough, there is
when
no.
we're watching Man in the Bar. He brings it up. He's like, "Oh, enough with the Jesus allegories."
But, and to be fair, I think that's one of the reasons why.
I think it's something so embedded into the character. It's
Yeah.
hard not to talk about it.
For God's sakes, a comic book just came out where it's Superman beating the shit out of the KKK. We need that more than ever.
Which we need to pick that up and review that at some point.
We do. I've been meaning to pick it up. It's just
It's hard to get things anymore.
yeah. But yeah, I think we can kind of get off the talking about the ideal part. Let's talk about some of the other facets of this real quick, and then we'll wrap up. What did you think about the animation in this?
I really liked it. It's obviously not the standard DC animation that I'm used to, but like it worked really well. I feel like it actually fit the material.
Yeah,
and especially because this is kind of like a standalone story for the most part.
I will admit it's a little bit cartoonish, but I think that was kind of the point, because like I think it really contrasts the Elite's brutal, harsh methods by having this Superman who looks like you would expect from like a kid's cartoon.
Yeah.
Which I think works really well, especially that scene where Superman comes back after Coldcast hits him with like the force of 15 suns exploding in his face. And like, he's got the bloody red eye from like Chester like popping all the blood vessels in his head. And like his costume's all tore up and he's just like, he got scary.
All fucked up.
Like that scene where he, after he throws Coldcast into orbit. What happened? What'd you do with him? Orbit. He went into orbit at Mach 7. In a few seconds, if you'd had super hearing, you'd hear a pop. It's
like, oh shit.
And then that scene where he grabs Manchester and just bitch slaps him like over and over and over. There's nothing more.
Him like he's a pimp. Like
there was nothing more satisfying in that movie than when he's just whooping Manchester's ass. And again, credit to George Newbern. That part where he's like, "How does it feel, Black, to be deconstructed, to be a victim, to watch your dreams die?" I'm like,
whoa. Let's take a step back here.
Soups.
Can we talk?
Are you actually picturing Batman right now, or is this
somewhere Batman's watching this like, I'm gonna stay here.
I'm gonna stay here. Everybody get in the cave. We're gonna seal the cave off. No, I feel like this is Superman. After Infinite Crisis. Let's face it, Superman. The last time you were relevant was when you were dead. Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna go build a satellite to watch metahumans and create the Brother Eye program. Because, it always works out in comic books when the hero creates a fucking AI.
Yeah, really.
Looking at you, Hank Pym. But yeah, I know a lot of people if there's any complaint they have is with the animation. Not so for me.
I think it works.
I think it works very well. I like that they take stuff from future stories with the Elite. Because for reference, Coldcast actually was a member of the Justice League for a brief period. Because after this story, there was a time where the Justice League wanted to make, like, an authority branch. It didn't last long for obvious reasons. In fact, I think Cassandra Cain was a part of that group, and I'm like...
Oh.
Like, why would because literally they wanted to make, like, a Justice League Black Ops. Again... Didn't work out.
The numbers, Wayne. What do they mean?
Also, it doesn't end well for Manchester Black. Basically, later on, he tries to kill Lois and he makes Superman think he killed Lois. He didn't. He just wanted to, because he wanted to try and prove that Superman was just as bad as him.
Yeah.
And Superman almost does, but he's like, no. Even if you did kill Lois, she wouldn't want me to do this. So literally, he gets so broken, he puts his fingers up to his head like this and uses his psychic powers to blow his brains out.
Jesus.
Yeah. No, it doesn't end well for Manchester Black.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact, that Union Jack, that's not a t-shirt he's wearing. He literally puts body paint on.
No, I can believe it.
You can actually see his nipples occasionally when they do up close shots. Also, I love Robert Atkin Downes as Manchester Black.
Oh no, he definitely fits the role really, really well.
Oh, he is amazing as Manchester Black. All the characters that voice the Elite are great. I actually also really like that they use the fact that Coldcast was a member of the Justice League, so he's probably the least problematic of the group, where even he like doesn't seem to be like as evil as the group. Like he does some stuff, but like he's not like Manchester Black, who like that one like army guy, he literally like folds his limbs and mangles him by like using his psychic powers, or the shit Menagerie does to people. Like that scene where they pull a Wrath of Khan where she puts the worms in the dude's ears.
I don't want to talk about that. That shit scares me.
I was like, thanks. I hate that scene in Wrath of Khan. I didn't need to see it here.
So, I think we've really covered this pretty well. Like I said, I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot more than I thought I was going to, and it'd be worth another watch.
Yeah. I would rate this a 9 out of 10. If you haven't seen it yet, I recommend finding yourself a copy.
It's probably really cheap on Amazon.
It probably is really cheap on Amazon.
It's also on DC Universe.
Yeah, so try to see it before DC Universe goes down. If not, I hope HBO Max puts it on there, because like I said, it's one of my favorite Superman stories of all time for a reason, because it asks, does the world still need Superman? And I think the answer is something really, really worth doing.
I also give it a 9 out of 10, by the way.
As for the book, I recommend. I think you can easily get this. I think it even has like its own graphic novel.
It probably has its own trade.
I will admit it's going to be different because it does some weird shit, like the fact it has like a Men in Black parody in it for some reason, which I think because like Men in Black 2 was coming out.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that dates this.
That yeah. I mean, granted, it's the DEO in that, which, to be fair, the DEO are in Supergirl. Also, there's also an episode of the Supergirl TV show where she fights the Elite. Which is also partially why I was inspired to pick this up, because apparently the Elite's still around.
Yeah, I haven't got to that season yet, so.
No. To be fair, all I know about it is apparently they try to steal the crown jewels of England to make Supergirl fight him. But yeah, otherwise, like I said, pick this up. It's really worth a watch. But anyway, guys, I think this will wrap it up. Come back next week for whatever we have in store. But until then, guys, as always, I'm Zangetsu134.
And I'm Average Joe Squad.
And as always, we ask you to remember the hyphen
and
take care.